My name is Jacqueline Estrada, and we'll be discussing the impact fairy tales have had on all of us. Fairy tales are stories that are told to us during bedtime when we're small and they help us go to sleep. Sometimes they're even told to us during class as part of reading time. But these fairy tales don't only impact our childhood, but they stick with us until we're adults. And as adults, we may read them to our children for bedtime or use them as a way to teach them a lesson through the book. Or maybe read to them if you're a teacher. Read them to your students, or as well use them as part of a lesson plan. And these stories are retold in various ways. They have spin-offs, or the classics are told. But these stories stick with us no matter what. And why is it that these stories stick? Well, fairy tales are not only stories, but they're more personal. They not only tell you something, but they help shape you as a self. They teach you right from wrong, how to be yourself, and as well how to deal with emotions. Now, there are various fairy tales. We have Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or Little Red Riding Hood, or the princess ones that Disney has remade, including Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and even Snow White. Now, these all teach us lessons from right and wrong to happily ever after to even dealing with a problem and knowing that there is a solution. But one that in particular that stands out, especially to myself, is The Princess and the Frog. Now, Princess and the Frog is a story of a princess who finds a frog after throwing her golden ball into a fountain. This golden ball falls way into the fountain where she cannot grab it. This frog tells her that he will take the ball, but he has to compensate her in some way. The girl automatically says, "Yes, I will compensate you in any way. I have all the jewelry, anything you want." But the frog doesn't want this. The frog wants to feel wanted and loved. So she says, "In which way?" And the frog says that he wants to be able to live amongst her. Tricking the frog, the princess says okay and gets her golden ball and leaves. Later, the frog knocks at her door while they're having dinner and surprises her. She ends up opening the door and telling him to leave, and the king asks, "Daughter, who was that?" And it's no one else but the frog. So the king tells her that she must keep her word and do what she said she would do. So she does. And she does all the things the frog wanted to have done in order to make him feel as part of the family. So then, at the last moment, he wants a goodnight kiss. And the princess gives him the goodnight kiss. With this goodnight kiss, the frog is turned into a prince, which later they will be able to play together with this golden ball and live happily ever after. So in The Princess and the Frog, we're taught to not judge a book by its cover. So the frog ends up being a prince, and the princess didn't want to help the frog or compensate him because the frog looks ugly. And we're taught in this way to be individualistic because we shouldn't care about as well what others think of us. And this fairy tale sticks because it teaches us this lesson to not judge a book by its cover and to be an individual. It as well teaches us right from wrong because the princess doesn't do as she had said. So it teaches children and adults to live up to their word. This fairy tale is actually based on the Grimm's brothers, where the Grimm's brothers wrote The Frog Prince. In this tale, it is similar to The Princess and the Frog, but instead, the frog is thrown against the wall and is then turned into a prince with the hit. And then they both marry and go off. But the carriage holder is the one who was then released from the pain. The one driving the carriage is named Henry, and he had his heart blocked in order to hold all the pain. And as soon as the prince is back, it breaks because he doesn't have to hold that pain. So the Grimm's brothers' tale is similar to The Princess and the Frog, but with a more of a harsher twist. It's not usually told to young children because of the harshness to it, but is reflected more similarly in The Princess and the Frog by Vera Southgate. There are other books of The Princess and the Frog that have taken that twist or are similar, but as well are the fairy tales that we love and enjoy and are being kept in our life because they teach these ideologies that only these fairy tales can teach. The other story that puts the twist in their story as well is The Princess and the Frog, and it is redone by Disney. It sets a twist on the Grimm's brothers fairy tale by providing us with a lady that works hard to open the dream restaurant of her dead father. Now, this lady is known as Tiana, and she works for a real princess and is dressed up as royalty when a frog, who is actually Prince Naveen, kisses her, promising her to help her get her restaurant when he is yet a prince again. With a kiss, the prince remains a frog, and Tiana turns into a frog as well. The spell does not work since she is not a real princess, she was just dressed as one. The two find themselves on an adventure to find a solution to turn back to who they are. This twist on the fairy tale, known by many, shows that one should never judge a book by its cover, and that although the circumstances may seem rough, there is a solution. This version of the fairy tale shows us the dealing with emotions that even though Tiana is upset about being a frog, as is the frog Prince Naveen, they both together can help each other overcome this upset feeling to find a solution. The Princess and the Frog, redone by Disney, does a great job of showing how one can overcome something when they're upset, as well individualism and the rights and wrongs. But there's another book as well that reflects The Princess and the Frog, and this one is known as The Princess and the Pea. In The Princess and the Pea, a prince is trying to find the perfect princess. And in order to find the perfect princess, he travels all around the world in order to seek the perfect princess. After searching and searching, he can't find the perfect princess. And then one night, there's a storm, and someone comes knocking at his door. And at this door is a princess that wants to prove herself a real princess. So then they have her sleep on top of 20 feather mattresses. And at the bottom, there's a pea. So then when she wakes up, after sleeping on these 20 mattresses, she is asked, how did she sleep? And she responds saying, not well, because the pea hurt her back. And she was even bruised up when she woke up. This proved the delicacy of the princess, showing that she is a real princess. So the prince automatically married her, and they lived happily ever after. So in this book, The Princess and the Pea, by Rachel Isadora, we learn that a princess is delicate. But it teaches us more than this. It teaches us individualism as well, because it teaches that even though we're delicate, it is okay to be delicate. It as well shows us that by seeking something, you can achieve it. So it assimilates The Princess and the Frog redone by Disney by showing the real princess aspect, where in The Princess and the Frog, Tiana was not a real princess and did not show herself to be a princess, rather than just was dressed up as one, where in The Princess and the Pea, the princess shows that she is a real princess by sleeping on these mattresses. Each of these books provides a story that is remembered because these fairy tales connect with the individual, whether it is by teaching a lesson or by means of helping us deal with a personal issue. And this is why these fairy tales are retold numerous times in different ways, with twists, with all these different ways of telling them, whether it was a female character and now is a male character. It is told in different ways, but with a similar lesson or storyline, so that these fairy tales can provide what other stories can't. Now, in 5 reasons why fairy tales are good for children, Saur Rees Docherty starts by quoting Albert Einstein. If you want children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. And if you want them to be even more intelligent, you read them even more fairy tales. And this leads to her description of the 5 ways that fairy tales can help children be able to grow. And these 5 reasons include boosting a child's imagination, cultural literacy, teaching them right from wrong. It helps them develop critical thinking skills. It helps them deal with emotions. And it creates a lot of fun for them. And this article does a review of how these reasons do take into effect when reading fairy tales. These fairy tales provide those stories that are needed in order to develop these skills that are being listed in this article. And Docherty explains how each of these reasons is seen being taught in these books. For example, The Princess and the Pea provides a cultural experience, which is part of the cultural literature they're getting. The Princess and the Pea by Rachel Isadora provides culture. It is an African tale told with many beautiful illustrations that depict African culture. There is one where they learn different words. In the back of the book, it says the 3 ways of saying hello in Africa. In Ethiopia, for example, they say salam. And it just shows the beautiful illustration. He is saying hello to this princess. And it just shows a different culture that students are probably not exposed to. And by doing this, through this fairy tale, they're gaining that cultural experience that they probably are not gaining from outside. It is well providing not only the cultural experience, but the fairy tale is as well providing the lesson of individualism and seeking what you want. Now, the article of Docherty, the 5 reasons why fairy tales are good for children, shows us the reasons why these fairy tales are very good for our children. It shows us why we should be reading fairy tales to children, not only because they provide these magical endings sometimes or seem like they're so far out of reach, but they actually teach lessons that other stories may not be able to teach. And through these fairy tales, we can see this occurring from the various times that they're retold generation after generation to have these lessons taught. Now, Scholastic.com is a great site to find more fairy tales. You can find all types of fairy tales on there, from the classical ones to the newer ones with the twists in them. And Scholastic.com provides a list of classical fairy tales and the spin-off ones. So you can, as a parent or teacher, look here for your student or child a bedtime story or a story that could be tied to a lesson plan. And by using this site, you can find these stories. And these stories are going to be the ones that provide the base for expansion of learning and as well personal growth. So by going on scholastic.com, you can just find these and see the variety there is. There's some that are more princessy, others that are more about the woods, such as Little Red Riding Hood, or great ones that have spin-offs, such as a Cinderella one that is told in the West, where Cinderella is actually a cowgirl. Fairy tales provide a great foundation in one's life that maybe one has noticed or maybe you haven't ever noticed at all. But these fairy tales have been told numerous of times in one way or another, and are not only stories but as well personal, because they teach us lessons and coping mechanisms. This is why fairy tales stick and are retold. Not only are they favorites, but they also provide a basis for learning expansion and personal growth. So through these fairy tales, not are we only telling a story, but we're also telling something that helps us grow and will be in our minds for a long, long time.